Hello everybody, in today's video we will play through a Nintendo DS game called The World Ends With You. In my opinion, this is the best game for the console. I really don't think it's a hot take, as I often see it in the top 10 games for Nintendo DS. The challenge this time is to play through the main game at level 1. In this game you can lower your level at any point outside of battle. I will also only play in the hardest difficulty called Ultimate. Time for the shameless plug. Please subscribe. I would really like to see the line go up, to the moon preferably. Anyway, going back to more important stuff. At the start of the first day, you make a pact with Shiki, so she is your partner for the next week. For plot reasons, the enemies are in two places at the same time, so you can't fight alone. The rest of the day is tutorial, so I'll skip it. During the second day, we meet Beat and Rhyme, two other NPCs that will play an important role in the story later. After we introduce ourselves, I had to use cheats to unlock the ultimate difficulty, as you usually unlock it at the end of the game, and set the partner AI to manual, so I have to control them. I also lowered my level to 1. The goal for this day is to examine the Hakiko statue, and it turns out it's an enemy wolf, but it's easy. That's not all though, because we meet Pinky, one of the Reapers, and she makes us fight a mini-boss. This fight is much harder. As you can see, to attack you have to swipe or click or do other gestures on the screen. The wolf heads go down after a little while and there is only the boss remaining. At the top of the bottom screen you'll see some icons. Those are called pins and that's the attacks that I have. For now I only have 3 slots, but we can add some later on. I will always have at least one heal in the last slot because mobs do very high damage. After we take out the mini boss, Pinky tricks us into killing Shiki, and that's the game. No, just kidding. It was only attempted murder. We can meet back up on day 3, and she forgives us surprisingly quickly. Also, you can implant thoughts in people's head. Totally not creepy. The objective of the day is to light up the concert area so the boss shows up. We more or less do that, and then it attacks us. It's an interesting boss fight. On the top screen there are a bunch of bats that Shiki has to take down. After she kills about half of them, the lights turn on and I can hurt the boss. And when there are no more bats, the boss gets stunned for a few seconds before spawning more bats and the cycle restarts. The unfortunate part is that these bats give some XP, so you'll see me level up 2 times during the fight. Every time I level up, my HP gets fully healed and I deal a little bit of damage near the characters, but it's not gonna impact the fight in any meaningful way. At this point, I should probably explain the food. In the game, you can improve your stats by buying and then eating food. To digest the food, you have to win some fights, but there is only so much food you can eat in a day. You can change the clock on your emulator to change the day and reset it, so effectively you can eat infinite food. I did not abuse it too hard, and I'll show my stats and gear at the end of each week, just before the boss fight, to show you what I'm at. The only exception is small foods that you can keep eating like chicken nugget, and thank God for those, because I'm about to eat 200 or so during the game. Also, you might have realized my HP is shared between the two characters, but attack and defense and bravery are not. Bravery is a stat that determines which kind of equipment you can wear. The stronger pieces require around 120 to 140 bravery. It raises by 1 point every time you level up, or you can increase it with foods. The only nice thing so far is that enemies on ultimate difficulty drop a lot of money, so I don't have cash issues for now. You saw me use fuse attacks a couple of times during the fight. You can get those by collecting stars when your partner attacks. There's a whole system depending on a partner, but I'm not gonna go into it. I also don't have the brain capacity to do that on top of everything else, so I'm just gonna spam commands for the partner. Anyway, after a bunch more fighting, I can finally take it out, but it turns out that was not actually the boss, but Beat and Rhyme save us. Day 4 is arguably the saddest. When we reach the destination, Beat is about to be killed by a noise, but Rhyme sacrifices herself to save him. Beat kinda loses it, but since he is alone, we have to take care of the shark ourselves. It has a cool mechanic where he gets stronger every time he eats stuff, but this time he ate all of the monsters in one gulp, so it only counted for one. Other than that, the boss can't do much. It just sprints around a little to deal contact damage or comes out of the ground to eat you and deal massive damage. It's still a quite long fight since it has a lot of HP, but it's one of the easiest fights in the game. It's also hard to do a complete combo with the saber pins. The saber pin is the one in slot 1, but many later bosses are gonna be much worse for that. Once I take it down and avenge Rhyme, day 4 is done. Day 5 is kinda long and I'll skip most of it. There's a new mechanic introduced, aka bootleg user board, where civilians can't see you, so you are the ghost moving the coin. After that, we can end the day with the fourth hard boss fight. I lost a few times to it. At this point, I was still rusty with the controls, so I couldn't dodge very well. At the start is not a big deal, but the more you damage the boss, the more his attack rises, and at the end he can almost one-shot me with a combo. I upgraded the saber pin and got one extra pin slot now. The idea is to keep the enemy knocked up, so it does not act and kill me. Another thing that I neglected to mention is that fusion attacks heal you for some HP. It's not much, but when you use multiple per fight, it adds up. After we defeat the bear, we meet the Game Master, aka the big bad boss of the week. He is also a Reaper, but much more powerful than the other ones. He also reveals that we are dead, and we are playing the game as ghosts. Quite a plot twist. Day 6 is quite boring to be honest. There is a trend mechanic where if you use pin and cloth things of one brand in one area, they become more powerful. So we have to make this red pin trendy in a few parts around town. Remember it for later. So we finally arrived at the end of the first week. We are attacked by a pretty powerful random reaper. The fight has two phases. In the first one, you have to kill two crows. And it's quite easy, and in my opinion, is to lull you into a false sense of security. Because once they die, we find out that the Reaper turned into a huge crow, and he is not very easy. I changed my loadout a bit. The saber pin might have been a mistake, but the second one, in my opinion, is the best pin you can get with your first Orichalcum. I also unlocked level 2 fusion with Shiki. The third pin is a passive that increases the amount of HP recovered when you heal, and the last one is the usual heal. This fight is quite long, because I find it quite hard to land hits on him on either screen. From time to time, the boss might drop stuff from the sky, You have to make sure to dodge it because if a bus hits you, it's a one-shot. To make things even more annoying, you can't get rid of the ad crows because they keep respawning over and over again, and they can steal your pins, and you can't use them until you kill the thief. So far, things have been somewhat easy, except for the bear boss and this one. I have not died too many times. Once it dies, I can take a bit of time to grind some more and equip the right clothes on my characters. I want to have good attack since I have a limited number of heals and I can't let the fight prolong for too long. And so we are finally face to face with the big baddie of the week. And to be honest, he is definitely the most bland character in the game. He's just a huge bad guy standing in your way. And after he transforms, he becomes even bigger. This fight has two phases. The first one is easy. He can't do that much damage, so for now he's not very dangerous. Just don't attack him while he's making the black hole, and be careful when he's about to slam his meaty arms. Once you deal 25% of his total HP is where the problems start, because he enters phase 2 and deals much more damage. Also, there is no safe place for you to hide. I tried to stay mostly at the edges of the map and hoped for a few swipes. His most dangerous attack by far is the lightning bolts though. They are much faster and there are random thunderbolts that strike you out of nowhere and combo you to death. I died a lot to those. This time I can finally erase him to complete the first week. As a reward for passing the week, they promise to revive us, but that is a lie and they only revive Shiki, so we are forced to play through another week of the game. At the start of the second week, like for the first one, we have to find a partner, and this time we make a pact with Joshua. We also immediately meet the GM for this week, and he makes us fight a rhino, which is not nice since they are about to go extinct in real life. The gimmick with this kind of enemy is to hit it on the back. It takes much less damage from the front and can hurt a lot. One small thing that always bothered me is that Shiki kept the equipment she had on, so I can't reuse it unless I buy it again. This is the point where I wanted to drop a hot take by saying that Joshua is my favorite partner. But apparently, according to a couple of Reddit polls, most people prefer Joshua over the other two. So only cold takes today. Once we deal with the rhino, we can move on to day 2, where Neku, the main protagonist, has the brilliant idea to scan Joshua's mind, and he sees a vision about the place where Neku died. So understandably, he is quite confused. Did Joshua witness what happened, or was he the killer? Unfortunately, he has no answers for the moment. While traveling, we get attacked by some kangaroos. I thought we were in Japan, not Australia. These are taboo noises. They attack both players and reapers indiscriminately, and they are also a pain in the you-know-what to deal with, since the only way to deal decent damage is to have the light pack on you. The light pack is the green orb particle effect that travels between characters sometimes. As you can see, they kinda kick my ass, but I ultimately triumph over them after a few more attacks. After the fight ends, we see some scrap piles that the GM is making in order to create more taboo noises, and we also discover that Beat is a Reaper now. Day 3 is quite interesting, as there is no mission, but Joshua tricks us into running into a certain location to meet a Mr. H. I won't try to pronounce his full name. He upgrades Joshua's phone so it can take photos of the past, and now the beat bowling can start. Beat attacks us and he is way too powerful for me. Thankfully, you don't have to beat him. If you survive for a while and or deal some damage, he leaves. Not before mocking us for being weak. It would have been quite a wall if I had to take him out. And with that, we can end day 3 and get into the next one. The fourth day is kinda boring to be honest. We used the time photos to help some people recover their lost microphone. There's also some drama between them, but to be honest, I don't really care about it. After some debating and photo reviews, we arrive at the conclusion that the thief is the GM. He took the microphone and threw it in the junk pile. After we solve the crime, Beat comes out to beat our ass once again. Fortunately, this time too, you don't have to defeat him, but just survive for a while. He still deals quite a lot of damage and can take me out easily, so I wiped a couple of times before I could get through. During the fight, Beat dropped the ram pendant, so now Neku wants to give it back to him, and with that we can proceed to day 5. Day 5 is more of the same. Beat attacks us once again. Pinky and Lollipop say that he is not allowed to, but apparently he is since it's the third time he does it. As always, the objective is not to take him out, but to just survive long enough to where he stops the fight. I had to change my loadout a bit. I have 2 heals now, but most of the time I don't use all of them. When the fight ends, we return the pendant to Beat and he leaves us. While exploring the Shibuya River entrance, we are attacked by a taboo rhino noise. Of course, since it's a taboo one, he is not easy to kill, and I most likely would have been able to defeat it. But once you fight him for a while, Joshua gets bored and kills the noise. Lollipop is nearby and declares that that kind of attack can only be performed by somebody who is still alive. So Joshua admits it and Neku is a little bit pissed about it. Day 6 is quite fun. We immediately get attacked by some taboo noise, but they are not that bad. The rest of the day consists in multiple events where somebody gets attacked by noise and you have the option to try to save them or not. It does not influence the storyline, but if you replay this day and try to help everyone, you get a good piece of equipment. Last but not least, you can choose to help Pinky and Lollipop too. If you help them, they are not very happy about it, since we are supposed to be enemies. I backtracked a little to fight one of the secret bosses in the game, and to be honest, it was not worth my time. The fight is somewhat cool. It consists of 2 of the usual snake, but reskinned. They have all of the attacks of the regular ones, but do a little bit more damage, so most of the fight is not very hard. There was another secret fox boss earlier, but I was not strong enough to defeat it, so I skipped it. Once they reach about 50% HP, they start spinning around, and while they do so, they are invincible, so that's not very fun since you can't damage them. Once they reach like 10% HP, they boot spin. Not only that, but they become a full-on tornado. So I guess we are in Kansas now. We even have the Wizard of Oz on screen. Anyway, once they stop tornadoing, you can get back to killing them, and on Ultimate, they only drop 1 Tektite, which is such a common drop. Whatever. We finally reached the infamous alleyway, And that's the end of the day, not before Joshua and the GM have a heated exchange of words. Nice of the game master to not spoil the story in the multiple encounters we had. So we finally reach the 7th day, and as in the previous week, we have to erase the game master to earn our freedom. Here are my stats and equipment just before the fight. I had to eat quite a few chicken nuggets to raise my HP, because the fight is quite hard actually. Before the fight, the GM gives us another vision, and this one adds some more context. In it we see that Joshua did not kill us, but he shot the GM, who then shot us. Or at least that's what it looks like. He turns into a werewolf and the fight can start. The first part of the fight is just against a couple of taboo noise, nothing crazy, but it takes a little while to defeat them. In this first phase, the boss is just chilling in the back, not doing anything. After you defeat the first wave, he sends out a second one. Both of them are random, so you might get crabs or kangaroos. When the third wave gets summoned, the boss finally joins us, and for now is in his human form. Once you take out the remaining noise, he summons more and changes screens. That's not all though, because he absorbs the taboo noise to turn itself into his noise form. In this form he is very annoying. It likes to poke you and TP around, making it harder for you to complete a combo and pass the light pack between characters. This fight is very long. The boss keeps switching between screens from time to time, and because of my low damage and his high HP, it's so slow to take him out. And the fact that I'm not very good with the light pack yet does not help my DPS. I would like to take the opportunity to thank you if you are still watching and to remind you to subscribe. I have many other videos on my channels that you can watch and publish a new one every week. And if you want, you can leave a comment if you have any feedback or videos ideas. Also, hi to the madman who watches my video on TV. That is a crazy thing to do. At this point, I'm not really sure what to say. There is about 1.5 minutes of this fight remaining. There's not much to say about it, just keep chipping the boss down over and over. So I guess you can skip to minute 25 if you feel like it. I'm just gonna ramble about the reasons why I think this is the best game for Nintendo DS. So I really like the fighting mechanics. They are very unique and take good advantage of the touchscreen. There are also some pins that require you shouting in the microphone, but the emulator does not support that feature very well, so unfortunately I can't use those. In one instance, the game even requires you to shut the lid of the DS close to kill an enemy. I was quite surprised when I first found it out. Another good aspect of the game is its story. It's quite entertaining and there are a few twists and turns to keep you on your toes. And last but not least, as someone who always plays games without audio and is generally not a fan of music, the soundtrack in the game is fantastic. Anyway, after a while, we finish off the boss of the second week, but he's not quite done yet. He pulls out his desperation move, but Joshua sacrifices himself to save us. And for some BS reason, even though we survived the week, we don't get revived and we have to enter the game one more time. Insert the GTA Here We Go Again clip here. We reach the Hakiko statue as usual, but it's flooded with noise, and Pinky tells us that there are no other players left. Thankfully, Beat comes to the rescue. Somehow stops being a Reaper and makes a pact with us, so he is our partner for the final week. On the second day, while talking with Pete, we meet the Iron Lady. She is the game master for this week. She is not a fan of random daily missions, so she only tells us to kill her and we have the whole week to do it. Since she has to be a dick, she steals or kidnaps Rhyme and turns it into a pin. So now it's very personal for Bit. While traveling around, we get attacked by 777, and that is also a dick move since I helped him at least twice during the previous weeks. The fight is not too bad, just be careful to keep your distance and take down the enemies from afar. Heal if needed. At this point I unlocked a sixth and last pin slot. For now I'll keep 4 attacks and 2 heals, but I'll change the configuration later. After we defeat him, he gives us a key pin and leaves, but gets killed off screen. So now we have to deal with another boss pet, like the one from week 1 day 3. The fight is more or less the same. You still have to take out the bats on the top screen to stun the boss and deal decent damage to it. This time around, the bats can attack a bit and deal some decent damage, but not that much. Your focus should mostly be on the bottom screen to dodge the main boss because he hurts a lot more. As usual, when the boss turns the light off, you can't deal damage to it, and have to remove some bats from the top screen. So just try to dodge as much as possible while spamming commands to beat them. Apparently I line up quite well with the majority of people, since Beat is the least liked partner, and that's the case for me too. I'm not very happy about the reuse of a boss, but I can close an eye this time, especially because, surprise surprise, you have to kill the little bat that trolled us earlier, and with that, day 2 comes to an end. We can proceed to the next day, where Pinky shows up again and challenges us to a game of tag. Once we reach her, we have to fight. She's not very easy, mostly because of her pink flower projectile she does in the top screen. That can do massive amount of damage to beat if you don't block it. She also likes to teleport around and moves quite a lot, which makes the fight more frustrating. As if that's not enough, she can also heal for a decent chunk of HP if you don't attack her for a while. These bosses have a light and a dark version. The dark one should be weaker to physical pins, but that usually does not matter much. As you can see, she regained almost one full bar of HP from a single heal, but after a little more, we defeat her. Once she is out of the fight, she is just a bit pissed, but her partner Lollipop arrives to calm her down and even gives us a key pin to explore more of the city. And that is the end of day 3. We can now start day 4 of the last week. Today we find ourselves trapped in the underpass and have to solve a couple of puzzles to earn pins to get out. Once we do, we meet Lollipop and he decides to fight us. He is much easier than Pinky. His movements are less erratic, his attacks deal much less damage, especially on the top screen, and he also does not have any heals. On the other hand, he can paralyze you, but that's not a big deal, and you can easily avoid it by not getting close to him. Once we defeat him, He would like to let us go, but Pinky pops up and they team up. For some reason, this fight was so hard compared to the previous two. It might be the fight where I died the most in the entire game, actually. One of the reasons why this fight is harder is the fact that they have a light pack of their own. It's purple and you can sometimes see it travel between them when they hit me. Just like us, when one of them is holding it, they do a lot more damage. And if Pinky has it and uses the very annoying move, she can easily do 80% of my HP in a couple of seconds. Once we take them down, we retrieve the ram pin, but it turns out to be a fake. At least they give us more key pins to explore other parts of the city. On the fifth day, not much happens, except for the zombie apocalypse. Remember the red pin we made popular on week 1? Well, turns out that can be used to mind control people. Pinky and Lollipop also get brainwashed and attack us, so we are forced to take them on again to defend ourselves. The fight is pretty much the same as the previous one, and since I now have a bit more experience with it, it's slightly easier. Again, it's a bit annoying that they reused the same boss fight, but this time it's much worse since it's back to back. On day 6, we visit Mr. H's place and we find it trashed, but he hid a key pin for us, and with that we can access the Shibuya River. While backtracking, we meet the boss of the second week, this time in human form, and of course he attacks us. The fight is annoying and long, but not too hard. He likes to teleport constantly, but at least he does not do that much damage. His moves on the bottom screen are also quite easy to dodge. Just be careful about beat and heal when needed. I added a pin that increases healing to my loadout. Since fights now should be longer, I might need to heal more. I was surprised to see him back, as I did not remember him coming back in the story, mostly because he will not have a big impact on it. Once we defeat him, we can move on to the last day. Since Beat was a Reaper but now he is a player, the game is starting to make him fade away. So we beeline for the river, and here are my stats and loadout for the last stretch of the game. The hat on Neku is actually from just after the fight. I think I had another random hat on. Anyway, we find Minamoto and the Iron Lady reveals herself. She was hiding in Beat's shadow the whole time. So now we have to take her on to retrieve the rhyme pin and to progress with the story. After a bunch more chit-chat, she finally reveals her noise form. And I have to say that while she's not the hardest boss in the game, she is definitely the most annoying one. During the first phase, she only appears on the top screen, while on the bottom screen there are some heads that spawn, only to be sucked into a black hole on the bottom left of the map. If they reach it, either the boss heals or your partner takes some damage. I tried to stop them, but most slipped through since I can't kill them in time. The second phase is the longest, but also the easiest. She only appears on one screen at a time, and she switches between them from time to time. Her attacks are pretty tame at this point, so it's just a question of time before you can deal enough damage to move to the next phase. I would strongly suggest healing to full, even if it's a bit of a waste, because during phase 3 she takes away all of your pins. In this phase, you want to focus on dealing damage with Beat and hope she does not summon too many decoys. while at the same time dodging her on the bottom screen, since she deals good contact damage. Once she has about 20% HP left over, she moves to phase 4. Here you have the rhyme pin and have to pay attention to the shadows and sometimes to a yellow sparkle. Hit her on both screen and she soon goes down. After she is defeated, we can move deeper down the river with the objective of defeating Megumi, the conductor. Not long after that, we find Shiki roaming the river bank. So the revival story was a lie all along. Next, we find Minamoto buried under a mound of debris, and if you were paying attention, you should know who did it. We now finally reached the conductor, but importantly not the creator of the game. He mind controls Shiki, I guess she had one of the red pins, and we have to fight them both. I was quite scared about this fight. I remember it being hard from my past playthroughs, but I guess this time I was very prepared, and the fight turned out to be quite easy, and I did not die even a single time. Just make sure to dodge Megumi's dragon arms, those hurt a lot. It shouldn't be too hard if, like me, you have lots of ranged pins equipped. On the other hand, Shiki is a bit more problematic. She can deal good damage to beat, especially since I'm not that good at blocking. In addition, they both can inflict attack break on your characters to cut down your DPS and make the fight longer. I could have equipped something to prevent it, but I preferred to focus on more stats and other abilities. After a bit more waiting on them, they finally go down. The game is not over though, we have a few more fights to go. Beat and Shiki get knocked down, and we have to proceed alone. Megumi is not done yet either and comes back to kill us, but he goes on an evil guy monologue. He asks us a couple of questions, but I don't think they really matter. Once he's done, he steals our player pin and breaks it. This should kill us, but it turns out not to be the case. In the meantime, Beat and Shiki wake up and join Neku to face against Megumi one last time. Since he is cornered, Megumi decides to reveal his noise form, and I have to say it looks cool. This fight has two phases, but they are very similar. In the first one, your partner is Shiki. Since the boss is only on one side of her screen, it should be pretty easy to spam commands and do good damage. On the bottom screen, the only problematic attack is the homing bubble that sometimes the boss sends out, but I found a good spot where it can't reach me, so I'm free to spam attacks over and over. Once he runs out of HP, the second phase can start. This time, Beat is your partner, and the boss position is mirrored. That's about where the differences end. Also, Beat is getting destroyed. I guess I should have gave him more defense. Nehu can still hide in the anti-bubble spot and shoot thunderbolts at the giant dragon. Other than that, there is not much else going on. We can soon end it, but it's not over because it's the return of Jesus. I mean Joshua. Megumi takes the opportunity to throw a shuriken at him, and somehow that captures him and the others. So now we have to face Megumi in its final form all alone. While it looks kinda scary, it's not that bad. I did not find the anti-bubble spot, so I actually have to put some effort into the fight. But at least I can destroy it once I get caught if I focus on it. Once again, the fight looks very cool, but I don't feel satisfied on a mechanics level. For example, while Mitsuki, the Iron Lady, was annoying, she at least had some unique mechanics going on, which made her a more interesting fight than just a bullet hell that you can mostly tank through. To be fair, he has a new-ish mechanic. Once you do enough damage to him, you'll see one of your allies flashing. If you press the right button, they will give you the light pack or boost it if you already have it. If you can keep it up, you can quickly reach its max level and start to deal decent damage. Is it just me or it seems like the yellow bar for the bosses represents much more HP than the green one? They all seem to go down very fast once you remove the yellow one. Anyway, after a few more electric discharges, I can finally get through the last of his HP and finish it with a nice cutscenes. It feels quite powerful, especially once the screen shake is in play. Time to wrap up the story. Megumi reveals that he had a mission given to him by Joshua, who is the creator of the game. Joshua wanted to delete the game, but Megumi grew fond of it and wanted to save it, so they made a deal where Megumi had to save the game in 30 days. It's also revealed that we have a second player pin, and that's why we did not die earlier. But who gave us this extra pin? Well, it should be obvious by now, Joshua did, and he finally reveals the true story behind our death. Joshua initially shot Minamoto, but he only hit his shoulder, so Minamoto shot back at Joshua. But Joshua recently saw the Matrix, so the bullets had no effect. At this point, Minamoto ran away, understandable, and then Joshua killed us. That's why I thought most people would not like him as a character. So now that the whole story is revealed, Joshua challenges Neku to a duel, an old Wild West style of duel, which seems unfair since he can stop bullets, but okay. While at the start of the game Neku might have shot, see the murder attempt on Shiki, he is a different person now and can't bring himself to shoot. Joshua appears to kill him, and to be honest, from here I'm not sure how the ending evolves. I wasn't this confused since Evangelion, but it seems to me that Joshua revived Neku and the other players because Neku grew a lot as a person, so maybe the world is not as rotten as he thought, and wanted to give Neku a good ending. Bit of a long video, but that's how it goes for Nintendo games, since I'm trying to cram a huge game in a single video. It took quite a while to make the video, so I would really appreciate if you drop a like and a subscription to my channel. Don't forget the bell. Also, all constructive feedback is welcome in the comments, or if you feel like it, leave a video idea you would like to see. Anyway, thank you for watching and see you next week. Bye!